On July 1st, 1977, a middle-aged man with glasses walked into the Riverside County Sheriff's Office with his friend. His name was Patrick Kearney. The friend beside him was David Hill, his live-in partner. Kearney pointed at a wanted poster on the wall and told the officers, "Wear them." Kearney had been in the Air Force. After that, he worked as an engineer for Hughes Aircraft. But for 15 years, he'd been living a completely different life, one that had nothing to do with that mild-mannered facade. In Southern California, he'd pick up young male hitchhikers, lure them into his car, shoot them with a handgun, drive them back home, have sex with the corpses, then dismember them and stuff the pieces into industrial trash bags, dumped like garbage along highways and in remote areas. No struggle, no chase, no dramatic standoff. Kearney, later known as the trash bag killer, the Freeway Killer, simply ended his own reign of terror. What made it even more disturbing was his plea deal. In order to dodge the death penalty, he walked the officers through his kills like he was doing inventory, even leading them to the corpses. He cooperated so perfectly that Judge Paul Breckenridge Jr. couldn't help but say at sentencing, "I would only hope that the Community Release Board will never see fit to parole Mr. Kearney because he appears to be an insult to humanity." On September 24th, 1939, Kearney was born in East Los Angeles into a relatively stable middle-class family. His father was a Los Angeles Police Department officer, his mother a stay-at-home housewife, and he had 2 brothers. But Kearney's early years weren't without their scars. Small and physically frail, he became target practice for schoolyard bullies from elementary school on. They beat him bloody and hurled gay slurs at him. Sissy, queer. Ironically, by all accounts, Kearney was actually more interested in girls. The bullying left its mark. As a teenager, Kearney grew quiet, withdrawn, his inner world curdling into something dark. He started fantasizing about killing people, and not just killing them, but skinning them alive. Dominant sexual fantasies took root alongside the violence. Years later, Kearney would admit in his police confession that at 13, he'd had sex with the family dog, one of his earliest sexual experiences. In order to straighten the boy out, his father bought him a .22 rifle. The officer taught his son to shoot pigs and chickens, explaining that the cleanest shot was just above and behind the pig's ear, minimal blood, bullet lodged in the brain. Maybe he thought this blood-soaked lesson would toughen up his soft son. However, it just perfected the technique Kearney would later use on human beings. Later, the Kearney family moved to Willcox, Arizona. His father switched careers to become a travel salesman, while Kearney enrolled in the local high school. The bullying never really stopped, but he did pick up fluent Spanish along the way. After graduation, he followed his parents to Dallas, worked a string of odd jobs, and in 1958, enlisted in the Air Force, stationed in Texas. It was during his service that Kearney met David Hill through a friend of a friend. They made an odd pair, Kearney at 5'7" and scrawny, Hill at 6'2" and built like a linebacker. Their on-again, off-again gay relationship would stretch across the next 15 years. In 1961, Kearney got his honorable discharge, and the 2 of them moved in together in Long Beach, California. By 1962, it fell apart. Hill went back to Lubbock and reconciled with his ex-wife. With Hill gone, Kearney started sleeping around with other men, diving deeper into the gay scene. He also tried marriage for a bit, didn't take, and after the divorce, he returned to California to take that engineering job at Hughes Aircraft. According to Kearney's later confessions, spring of 1962 marked his first kill, a hitchhiker in Orange County, California. He talked the man into riding out with him on his motorcycle to a remote spot near Indio. Once they got there, he shot him in the head and sexually assaulted the body. The second victim was almost too tragic to believe. He was the first guy's 16-year-old cousin, desperately searching for his missing relative after watching him ride off with a stranger. Kearney saw his opening, played the helpful Samaritan, offered to drive the kid around looking for his cousin. Same location, same gunshot, same violation. The first murder that would actually stick to him in court came around Christmas 1968, right there in his own home. He and Hill had patched things up, moved to Culver City. That day he lured a man named George up from San Diego, brought him back to the house, and while they were together, he shot him dead. Dragged the body to the bathroom, had sex with it, then went to work with an X-Acto knife, skinning and dismembering the corpse. In order to cover his tracks, he dug the bullet out of George's skull, buried the pieces behind the garage. But he was just getting started. These early kills were practice runs. By June 1971, he'd refined his craft into something almost industrial. John Demchick accepted a ride from him. He drove Demchick to some isolated stretch and killed him. Demchick's remains weren't found until February 1973. At first, they figured Demchick was just another undocumented Mexican who'd crossed the border and vanished. Then the coroner took a closer look. One bullet, left ear in, lodged in the right cheek. The signature shot, the one Kearney's father had taught him, right above the ear, clean and efficient. September 1973. 17-year-old James Fletcher Barwick hitched a ride with Kearney. His body turned up that same day. When the coroner cut him open, they found semen in his rectum, meaning this kid suffered one final violation before he died. From 1974 onward, Kearney was practically on a monthly schedule. He'd cruise the highways and gay bar strips in his Volkswagen Beetle or pickup truck hunting. Once someone got into his car, it was right hand on the gun, left hand on the wheel, waiting for an opportunity to kill, all the while maintaining just the right speed to avoid attracting attention. After the kill, he'd drive to some desolate spot to have sex with the body. Then came the hacksaw, the industrial trash bags, the dumps in canyons, landfills, along the freeway. That's how he got the name, the trash bag killer. Sometimes he'd leave corpses in the desert for the vultures and coyotes. Sometimes he'd beat the corpses, working out years of pent-up rage and bitterness. He told police the killings excited him, gave him that rush of dominance. Just thinking about sexually hurting someone, killing them, that got him off. Although Kearney primarily targeted young men, his victims also included children and teenagers. Among them was 5-year-old Ronald Smith. August 24, 1974, Ronald went missing in Lenox, California. That day, Ronald had begged his grandmother to let him go play at Lenox Park. At the park, Ronald got into an argument with his friends and decided to leave on his own. On his way home, Kearney's car pulled up in front of Ronald, and he lured Ronald into the car under the pretext of going for a drive. Along the way, Kearney took Ronald to McDonald's to grab a bite to eat, complaining that he was starving. However, that meal at McDonald's turned out to be his last. On October 12, 1974, Ronald's body was found alongside Ortega Road in Riverside County. His ankles were bound with underwear and semen was detected in his rectum. On June 16, 1976, 13-year-old Michael was murdered. The teenager from Redondo Beach had a long history of juvenile delinquency. According to Kearney's testimony, he happened to run into Michael near Inglewood Avenue as Michael was trying to hitchhike to Torrance. Then Kearney explained why he killed the boy. Michael kept bragging about his criminal history, kept asking where the burglar alarm was in Kearney's house. He concluded that the boy posed a potential threat, so he shot him. During police questioning, Kearney said, "I disposed of the body. You'll never find him." To this day, Michael's remains are still out there somewhere. His final victim was 8-year-old Merle Chance, a kid from the Venice neighborhood. On April 6, 1977, Chance was riding his bicycle near Kearney's workplace. Kearney stated that after killing Chance, he took the boy's body home to keep it overnight, and only the next day did he dispose of it in the Angeles National Forest. The one who finally ended it all was 17-year-old John LeMay. On March 13, 1977, around 5:30 p.m., John told his neighbor he was heading to Redondo Beach to meet someone from the gym, a guy named Dave. Dave was Hill. When John rang the bell, Hill wasn't home, only Kearney. Kearney played the gracious host, told John to watch TV while he waited for Dave, and then he pulled his gun and put a bullet in the back of John's head. 5 days later, John's body was found. But here's the thing. John had told his neighbor where he was going, so the police followed the trail and actually knocked on Kearney's door before Merle Chance was killed. During that visit, Kearney and Hill realized word about John was out. Then Kearney pivoted, confessed their gay relationship to the deputies, played the frightened lover's card, claimed they were terrified of becoming victims themselves. That half-truth performance was good enough. The police bought it, snipped a few carpet fibers for comparison, and walked away. After that first visit, the police ran the fibers they'd collected against the green threads investigators had pulled from the nylon tape sealing the garbage bag around John's body. Perfect match. But they'd screwed up the collection procedure, chain of evidence issues, so they needed to go back and do it right. On May 3rd, they showed up again, this time officially extracting carpet samples, demanding hair and biological specimens from both Kearney and Hill, and that's when they stumbled onto something else, a hacksaw crusted with dried blood. The lab results came back like a nightmare. Carpet fibers from John's body identical to Kearney's living room carpet, blood on the saw, John's blood type. The pieces were falling into place, and by June 3rd, the arrest warrants were signed. But Kearney had already smelled it coming. He'd written his grandmother in Barstow weeks earlier, instructed her to sell the house, settle the bills, told her he was moving. On May 26th, he and Hill bolted to El Paso, Texas. But it didn't stick. After enough phone calls from family, Kearney decided to turn himself in. July 1st, the two of them walked into the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. Kearney walked straight to a wanted poster on the wall and said, "Wear them." Later, Hill was cleared of suspicion and proven to have no connection to Kearney's crimes, as Kearney had committed his crimes only when they had argued and he had left home. Thus, Hill regained his freedom. But Kearney, his real trial was just beginning. Facing questioning from investigators, he chose to make a full confession. At first, he admitted to 28 murders, then added 7 more, bringing the total to 35 lives taken. In order to save his life, Kearney cut a deal, full confession in exchange for his life. Prosecutors charged him with 21 murders. He pleaded guilty to all of them, got 21 consecutive life sentences. The police knew the other 7 he admitted to were real too, but without physical evidence, those cases just sat there, technically unsolved, forever in limbo. September 2025, Kearney's still rotting at Mule Creek State Prison. Never made parole, never will. Judge Paul Breckenridge Jr. got his wish, the one he voiced at sentencing. That cold fury barely contained. I would only hope that the Community Release Board will never see fit to parole Mr. Kearney because he appears to be an insult to humanity.